Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And once again, the Phillies did not complete the sweep. It's been forever. What in the world are they doing that they can't sweep teams? We'll talk about what's going wrong on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me for some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in the great city of Philadelphia for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now also my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to us in podcast form. You can get Locked On Phillies wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're checking us out on YouTube, you can also watch the show. Hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. Leave us a like on the video. All that stuff, it'll get us more in your algorithm. The subscription will make sure that the notification pops up when new episodes are posted, just like it did for this one. If you're already subscribed, that helps you out, helps me out. It's super easy to do, free. And so I appreciate everyone who's done that and everybody who's going to do that. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today. Now, it's been a bit since we last talked. Yes, I was on a very ill-timed bachelor party. Shout out my friend for deciding that he wanted to go on his last ride the day of the Major League Baseball trade deadline. You got to show up for your friends. So we haven't talked in a minute. Good news is tomorrow is an off day for the Phillies. I'm recording this on Wednesday. So tomorrow's episode, we're going to catch up on everything that we missed. Thoughts on the trade deadline. Thoughts on the outfield rotation, which I don't think should be happening. Thoughts on Kyle Schwarber's MVP case, the standings check-in, all of this great stuff. We're going to catch up on that. But we got to talk about this series with the Orioles first and foremost, and the final game of the series today, where the Phillies once again did not complete a sweep. What's been going wrong that's led to them unable to sweep teams? We will talk about that. We're also going to take a look at some pitching staff worries. Ranger Suarez is kind of flirting with worry zone for me. And Zack Wheeler, well, he gets his start pushed back against the Rangers in the next series coming up with shoulder soreness. That's a problem. Then the overall homestand, we will look at that as well with a couple of really, really good wins in there between the series with the Tigers and the O's. But let's start with today's game because the Phillies go out there. They lose 5-1 to the Baltimore Orioles, who are having a nightmare season. And this should have been a sweep opportunity. The Ranger Suarez on the mound, you feel good about your chances to win when he throws. The offense has been rolling. You shut the O's out last night. And naturally, you give up 5 today and you almost get shut out yourself. So that part of that's baseball. But then you look and you're like, well, it feels like it's been a while since the Phillies have swept a team. Do you know the last time? Don't cheat. Don't look it up off the top of your head. Do you know the last time the Philadelphia Phillies swept another team in a 3-game series? It was back on July 13th, 14th, and 15th against the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah. Wait, sorry. Did I say July? June. July would have been nice. They went the whole month of July, and so far in the early parts of the month of August and the latter half of the month of June without sweeping a single team. And they're still in first place in the National League East, and they're still one of the top records in baseball. But my goodness, what has been going on with the Phillies that they can't do that? Well, I have a couple of theories. And the number one reason that I don't think the Phillies have been able to sweep teams is because their pitching staff is starting to show the wear and tear. Now, here's the tricky thing that I hope I'm wrong about, and I hope doesn't happen. Well, like not wrong about, because this is just a theory of what could happen. It's not something that I think is necessarily happening yet, but it's a potential trend. It's a hypothesis that we'll see over the next 2 months if it comes true. So at the start of the season, the Phillies rotation, we knew, was going to be the strength of this team. Unbelievable. Wheeler, Sanchez, both looked at. Wheeler, a strong Cy Young candidate. Sanchez is a dark horse Cy Young candidate coming into the season by a lot of people in league circles. Well, both of those guys have delivered on those, and they're high up in the Cy Young odds right now. Now, it seems like it's Paul Skeens' award to lose, but at the same time, Wheeler and Sanchez are going to be right in this thing, even though you haven't seen the best from Wheeler lately, and maybe that's due to the shoulder soreness. We'll talk about that later. Ranger Suarez, when he came back from injury about a month into the season, he was unbelievable. Jesus Luzardo had a great start to the season. He's had some really rough ones, but overall, he's been a successful acquisition for the Phillies. But the bullpen was weak. So what do? You ride your great starting pitchers as deep into ball games as you can. And something we've seen from Rob Thompson this year is he is allowing his pitchers to go even deeper than he has in the past. The Phillies' average start length is longer than any other team in baseball, and it should be with this rotation. But what that leads to is you having to shoulder a lot more wear and tear when you get to this point in the season, when you get to the end of the month of August, when you get to September, when you get to October. And that's where it starts getting sneaky dangerous. Because if the Phillies have a couple of guys that are like, well, we had to make up for the bullpen's deficiencies at the start of the year because our bullpen stunk. So if we were going to win games, we had to throw into the seventh inning pretty consistently. And over the course of 162 games, if your entire rotation is doing that, this is about the time of year where you start to say, okay, we're in the final 2 months. We're kind of like July is the point where it seems like a lot of pitchers and hitters as well hit their peak of like, okay, I'm warmed up. I'm not worn down. I'm starting to see everything well. This is where everything kind of comes together. Good thing for teams that are struggling and bad thing for teams that are hot. The World Series ain't won in July, folks. You got to do this for 6 months. And if the Phillies are starting to experience a little bit of Zack Wheeler starting to slow down, Ranger Suarez having those late season issues that we've seen before, Jesus Luzardo reverting back to the mean, like that's going to be a problem. So I hope that's not the thing. But I think that's why they haven't been sweeping series, because when they were sweeping teams occasionally in the earlier part of the schedule, it would be series where they got like Wheeler, Sanchez, Suarez. Now there's just a lot less certainty to put together 3 strong starts from this Phillies rotation. The bullpen has only recently improved post-trade deadline, and it will improve more once David Robertson's up with the team. But that's the main place where I point to why they haven't swept the series since the mid part of June, is because I don't think you've gotten as good a starting pitching as you got in the first part of the season. And that could be a troubling thing, or that could just be a weird stretch. And it's not just the pitching. The offense today was rough. They left a lot of runners out there at scoring position. I know it's a day game, getaway day for the Phillies before they head down to Texas to take on the Rangers. They got an off day tomorrow, so you got kind of the backup lineup from Rob Thompson today. And you saw a pretty good pitcher in Trevor Rogers. So you do have to give credit where credit is due. That wasn't the easiest matchup. Tricky lefty on the mound for a guy like Kyle Schwarber, a guy like Bryce Harper, who didn't heavily contribute today. But the offense has been streaky as well. The thing that makes up for that is if you go out and you got guys that are going to go, like think about you're going to hate me for telling you to think about the series again, but the series with the Houston Astros. Now, I know the offense sucked in that series, non-existent. But the starts that you got from the guys that went in that series in Houston gave you a chance to win every single one of those games relatively easily if your offense had any chance of a clue in that series. And the offense was good on this homestand. Later on in the episode, we're going to talk about that. But when you have inconsistent offense at points and you have starting pitching that was great, kind of slow down to the point where you're not putting 3 good starts together or 3 exceptional starts together, it makes it harder to sweep those series. Now, let me ask you this little pop quiz for all you folks out there that are freaking out about the Phillies not sweeping series, because I am on the record as saying I do not need them to sweep series. I would like to see them do that. I expected them to do that today, and I'm a little bit annoyed that they did not. I don't like them leaving runners in scoring position the way that they did. So they need to have better at-bats and better clutch situations. But you're also not working with your top-tier lineup today. But anyway, I say that to say this, right? Like, I'm not an I need to see a team sweep guy, and here's why. Do you need to sweep to win a playoff series? No. You can lose games in playoff series. Just about every team does. All right? You're not going to go out there and just sweep your way to the World Series. People will remember, if you're old enough and you're here in Philadelphia and you're a basketball fan, Moses Malone talking about for the Philadelphia 76ers, their last title-winning team. Now, they didn't sweep everybody. They did lose 1 game. That ain't how baseball works, folks. You're not going to go out there and just sweep your way to a World Series win. There will be losses, but winning series is how you advance. And the Phillies have been winning series. So 3 straight series wins. They had won 3 in a row coming into today's game. I mean, they're not playing bad baseball, but they just can't seem to get it into, I don't want to say second gear, but that third gear, right? They're just kind of trotting along, maybe, I don't know, 45 miles an hour. That doesn't put you in the left lane, but it doesn't mean you're causing too much traffic on a normal road. But you need to really kick it into high gear at some point in this season. Maybe it's coming for the Phillies. Maybe the offense will get rolling a little bit more. We're seeing signs that they could be close to it, but they just can't quite get the clutch to stick. Or maybe not stick. I don't know. I don't know how to drive a manual, but you get what I'm saying. So we'll figure out. We'll be watching that closely when they get those opportunities over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully they do get that. But they did win the series. They lost today. That was a little bit annoying. One more good thing about today before we move on, and we'll talk about this again in the strong overall homestand. Trey Turner almost hits for the cycle, home run short of the cycle, had a really nice day, 3 hits, an RBI. He did have the only RBI for the Phils. He had a walk in the first inning. He's been slumping mightily lately. It's nice to see him have a game like that. Maybe that's a bounce back point as they head to Texas. So there's always upsides for this Phillies team because they rarely have games where they just completely get pumped. And then the next thing you know, they look like a complete loser team. They'll have annoying losses, but they always have something that you can kind of lean on to say, okay, I know they've got pieces. Putting it all together, that's a tough part of it. So we'll see if they can play better, consistent, winning baseball. And if they continue to win series, that's all they need to do that. Lost to the Orioles, still a series win. They won't feel as good heading into the off day. But I'm not too mad about where the Phillies are right now. I did talk a little bit about the worry with the Phillies rotation, though. And we're going to get even deeper into that with the news that Zack Wheeler had a start pushback against the Texas Rangers. He will now throw on Sunday and move back a couple of days just because of some shoulder soreness after his last start. Should we be worried about that? I'm going to tell you why not as we continue today's episode. Let's talk about 5-Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And a lot of our copy here, because it is like the transfusion's a golf drink, right? And it tastes just like it. I've tried the 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It's very, very good. Tasty, does its job. I'm going to just tell you, like, if you didn't know why I was on vacation, I was on a 5-day bachelor party in Ibiza. I got back last night to JFK at like midnight. I had to wake up at 4 this morning for morning radio. Oh, if I ever needed a 5-Hour Energy, I needed one today. So you know what I did? Rolled by the Wawa, got a 5-Hour Energy shot, took care of business. Felt great. Did the show this morning, doing the podcast right now. That's all you need. If it can pull me out of a 5-day bachelor party in one of the biggest party islands in the world and make me this chipper and this able to do the podcast again today and get back to you with all the best Phillies information, that's how you know it works. So you got to go ahead and check it out. And if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF, GOLF, like the sport, to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, so go ahead and check that out. And whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. So Zack Wheeler is the biggest current worry in the Phillies rotation from a health standpoint, right? So we're going to start there. We also are going to talk about Ranger Suarez today, which his velocity continuing to stay down. I don't love that. As much as he's a guy that can get away with it because he's such a smart pitcher. He's such a deceptive lefty. I don't love what that means for the future. Like if you had to ask me, are you more worried about 3 parts of the Phillies roster right now? The rotation, the lineup, the bullpen. For the first time this season, and maybe this is the Joan Duran effect, but I think I'm more worried about the rotation than anything else right now. I know, gasp. But that's it, man. When you've got Ranger kind of struggling a little bit and Luzardo being a mystery box of what in the world's going on, and Aaron Nola maybe comes back and looks good. Maybe he comes back and doesn't look good. And Taijuan Walker's been back and forth a bunch. And Christopher Sanchez has been really, really good. Awesome, right, this year. He may be more in the Cy Young case than Wheeler after the last couple of starts right now. But either way, those two guys are still good. But it's just, you look at it and you say, okay, it feels uncertain. Maybe this is a perspective thing. Maybe it's a relativity thing. Like if this was the rotation that you'd seen all year, we may feel a lot better about it because Zack Wheeler could still give you damn good starts. Christopher Sanchez is still awesome. Ranger Suarez was not bad today outside of the fourth inning, but he did have a rough fourth inning. Jesus Luzardo has had some really, really impressive outings this year, and Taijuan Walker's numbers look strong. And Aaron Nola has the upside of a top 2 arm in a playoff rotation. So they have a bunch of stuff. Maybe it's just we had the luxury of these guys looking so good. Now that they look human, it feels terrifying, and it shouldn't be. But when I see that Zack Wheeler has shoulder soreness and is getting pushed back a couple of days in his next start, like given some extra time, when I know he hates extra time, and he said that very much and likes to pitch on routine, that's a red flag. I led into this segment by giving you the tease saying why you shouldn't be worried about it. Because, let me think back. If only there was a historic example of how the Phillies could handle the Zack Wheeler situation and get away with it and actually benefit from it. How does that work? Well, if you remember way, way back, ancient history these days, but in the year 2022, the Philadelphia Phillies shut down Zack Wheeler for a month because he had some shoulder impingement, soreness, some weird stuff going on with his shoulder. So I said, yeah, we're shutting you down for a month. We'll get you back ahead of the postseason, give you a quick ramp up, get you ready to roll. And you know what happened? That dude ended up pitching very well for the Phillies in the postseason, and he pitched a great final game of the World Series before Rob Thompson pulled him for Yordan Alvarez at bat, Jose Alvarado, the pitcher, and we all know how that went. But they have done this before where the Phillies have shut him down for a little bit, said, take your time, we will survive in the meantime, and we will get ready to roll. For anyone who's saying this team can't survive if you were to do that strategy again, you do not remember how many holes there were on that 2022 Phillies team. They barely snuck into the postseason. This team is better than that 2022 team, and I don't think it's particularly close. So they should be able to, if that strategy is needed, and I'm not saying it is, but if that strategy is needed, they should be able to withstand that again this year. So worst case scenario, if you're like, well, the Phillies will never be able to rest Zack Wheeler, get him back, he won't be throwing at his best, they won't win. We saw it 3 years ago, guys. I know it feels forever ago because the Phillies have played a lot of baseball and a lot of big games, and we have a lot of emotional scarring from these past 3 years, but it was not that long ago that the Phillies did this with Zack Wheeler, and they got it to work out, right? And it also may not be that serious. This could just be, hey, he needs an extra day or two. He's working his way out of a funk coming out of the All-Star break because he got off his routine. Like, I don't know. It's not an injury. If he was injured, trust me, they would not have him starting in this series against the Texas Rangers. If he was hurt, like actually hurt, not just like, something feels a little bit sorer than it normally is, they would not, he'd go on the injured list. He'd go on the 10-day IL. Like, they'd be very cautious. They don't want Zack Wheeler to have a major injury, so they would not pitch him unless they feel very sure that he's able to go. So it's not a DEFCON 1 situation, 2, 3. No, this is just you're starting to see a glimmer of a potential issue. The reason why I'm not overly worried about it is we've been down this road before. A lot of the people currently with the Phillies organization are the ones who executed the strategy with Zack Wheeler previously, and it worked out for the best. It'll be something we'll be watching closely because his command has been rough. And you had to figure something like this was coming with the way that he was throwing the baseball recently. He just didn't look like Zack Wheeler. So maybe the rest will get it done. Maybe it won't, and this will get worse, and they'll have to shut him down. And that will be a bad scenario for the Phillies. But I'm just saying that doesn't mean the season is over. We literally have the exact same example from a previous season not that long ago. So the Wheeler thing, concerning. The Ranger thing, I don't know. The Ranger thing, we may be tricking ourselves. We might be. The velocity is down, and we've seen in the past Ranger drops off in the latter parts of season, whether that's conditioning, whether that's injury, whether that's, injury earlier in the season that leads to a lack of conditioning ability because you're not available in spring training. I don't know exactly what feeds into that, but I know that it's a certified thing that Ranger Suarez starts to drop off in the latter part of the season. I also know that he's a lockdown, stone cold killer in the postseason, whether he throws well in the regular season or not. That dude shows up in big-time games, just like Zack Wheeler does. So I'm not worried about Ranger in the postseason as long as he's healthy and available. And maybe we're just talking ourselves into this, right? Because he doesn't seem to be hurt, right? He doesn't seem to be laboring at all. He doesn't seem to be out of shape from just looking at the way he's throwing and everything. The velo is down, but again, he can get away with that because he's a very smart, very tactical, surgical pitcher. And I also look at it and say, okay, maybe what we're doing is he's been hurt last year late in the season, the year before late in the season. He's had this sustainability issue when he's at his best. He just can't do it for more than like 2-3 months at a time. And it's a tough way to be a top-level major league pitcher. But maybe we're seeing this again. We're like, oh, immediately your mind connects what you're seeing now with previous data. That just tricks our mind play on us. Psychology 101, or maybe it's neurology. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. But bottom line is when you see something that you've seen similar before, you automatically connect it with that, even if it's a different reason. I'm not jumping the gun on Ranger, but my mind is doing it, and I'm having a hard time fighting it, saying, he's starting to kind of look like he's dropping off again. If those two guys drop off, what is your playoff rotation? Wheeler, Suarez, who you feel okay about. Sanchez is very, very good still. Luzardo, wild card. Nola, no clue at this point. Again, goes back to the whole conversation about the pitching staff starting to feel a little bit shaky about it. I'm not freaking out today. I know this is a lot of like, maybe this is wrong. Maybe this is wrong. But these are just things that you start to zone in on when the stakes get higher and when you get into the month of August. And that's where we are right now. So that's why we are doing it this way. But overall, it was a strong homestand. So we're going to finish out with some positives on what the Phillies were able to do in their 2 series against the Orioles and the Tigers as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk FanDuel first because summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing the same game parlay or watching a bet ride in the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. And this is the time of the Major League Baseball season. I'll just tell you, you have a lot of data. You're well over 100 games now for every team played. You should know who's having great years, who's having rough years. This is the best time to take advantage on FanDuel because you have more data at your disposal. So check it out. And if you've been waiting all season or forever to get in on this and you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bet if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Positives from the homestand, because it was a good homestand for the Phillies. There is no other way to describe it than a good homestand for the Phillies. You win 5-0 against the Orioles, shut them out. 13-3 against the Orioles, offensive explosion. 2-0 against the Tigers, shut them out. 5-4 against the Tigers, both of those wins, Juan Duran wins. Love that. And then you drop one game in each of those series. The Tigers won a little bit more understandably so than the Orioles won because the Tigers are one of the better teams in baseball. But hey, one of those better teams in baseball, the Tigers, who for a good part of this season, like almost a month or two's worth of this season, were the consensus best team in baseball and had the best record in baseball. And part of that's because the Dodgers have struggled with injuries. They came into your house and got smacked around a little bit. You didn't beat them like handedly, but you beat them 2 games out of 3. And then the Orioles, you cooked them in games 1 and 2 of this series. I know getaway day was not great today. Maybe that's hey, we've just had a couple of big-time performances. This is the letdown game. I don't know. I'm not getting into the psychology of it. But what I will say is when you win 4 of your 6 games on a 6-game homestand, that is pretty darn good. So you should feel good about that. And we also saw some great performances. Like if there are themes of the homestand, theme number 1, the big guys showed up. I know they didn't today, but largely over the course of the 6 games, you see how good this team can be when Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper are swinging a hot bat. They did not do it today, and they didn't do it last night. It was the bottom of the lineup that did it last night in Game 2 of this series with the Orioles. But They were a huge catalyst for the offensive success on this homestand. And that's a great, great thing to see. And that's not new. They were doing this a little bit on the road before they came back home too. Think about that series against the Yankees up there at Yankee Stadium. Like they're having more games than not creative offensive performances, creating opportunities and then cashing them in. So that's a good thing. The bullpen, whoo, baby, does it feel different with Jhoan Duran out there. That's another thing that was big about this homestand. For the first time, I actually can look through the Phillies bullpen and feel kind of good about getting 9 outs, getting 12 outs in a game, right? Now, maybe it's only one game at a time right now, and we'll see. Jose Alvarado has rejoined the team. He has not rejoined the team in playing nature. He's with the team, and he offered an apology and everything like that. And we will talk about that. Maybe that'll be something that we get into this weekend where we talk about that on the podcast here. We'll do an episode because I'm intrigued with how he's used and how the fan base feels about Jose Alvarado. We talked about it a little bit on the radio this morning over at 97.5 The Fanatic on Kincaid and South Tunis. But the bullpen looked much more sustainable with the addition of Jhoan Duran. And you should feel pretty darn good about that if you're the Phillies. It's been a while since we've been able to look at the bullpen. And I hope you can do this too. I hope you're not listening to me saying, you're crazy, this bullpen still stinks, because I don't think it does. Now, do I think it's top 5 in baseball? No. Do I think it's top 10 in baseball? I don't know. Do I think it's a World Series winning one? We'll see. I'm not confident enough to say pretty definitively, like, yeah, you can win a World Series with this bullpen, but you're closer than you were. And that was apparent on this homestand. And it also shows you when you have like this lockdown closer, how much easier it makes everything else. You can throw Strom in the 8th. You can throw Kerkering in the 7th. All of a sudden, the guys that you were throwing in the 6th don't throw anymore. The guys that you were throwing in the 7th and the 8th, like Jordan Romano, can throw in the 6th in like a 4-run game. And you can get him out of there quick for one of the higher leverage guys if you need to. It just, Max Lazar can start to get more opportunity because he can throw in the 6th inning rather than you needing him to throw in the 8th, and that's too big of a spot for him, right? So these things tend to build upon themselves when you just add one piece and everybody slots down. So that was nice to see. And the other thing that was really good to see on the homestand was not just the offensive output in general, it was the power. The Phillies are hitting the ball out of the yard, man. They didn't today, but they are crushing home runs at an incredible rate right now. I believe they still have the most home runs since the All-Star break in all of baseball. And that's really good to see by them because that was a major question mark for this team. And part of it is Kyle Schwarber has 40. But the other part of it is guys like Bryce Harper contributing. Brandon Marsh has shown off a little bit. Max Kepler hit one the other day. Edmundo Sosa has got ability to hit it out of the yard. JT Realmuto's resurgence has been really big for this team, and he's put a couple good swings on baseballs. But you're starting to feel the depth of the lineup. You're starting to feel the depth of the bullpen. And then the rotation all of a sudden gets shaky because we can't have nice things. And why would the Phillies fire on all cylinders all at once? But all in all, it was a good homestand. And it was a situation where you come out of those two series saying, okay, left a little bit out on the table. There's still more to be added, but you can continue to play the way that you have been playing and should be able to get you into October with a pretty darn good shot at this thing. The only question is, when you get to October, are you going to need more? And I think that's where we're at, right? They need to play better baseball in the postseason. We are not in the postseason yet. And the level of baseball they're playing right now, it's good enough to get you there and get you there in a pretty darn good spot. By the way, just a little immediate update here on Locked On Phillies, because I'm recording this. It's like 4:25 p.m. right now on Wednesday. So pretty soon after the Phillies-Orioles game 3 went final. The Mets almost got no hit today. They lose to the Cleveland Guardians. They get swept by the Cleveland Guardians. They're still 2.5 games back in the NL East. I'll tell you this right now. I feel pretty good about the Phillies' chances to win this division. The Mets are floundering, and their schedule, it's not incredibly easy the rest of the way either, especially when you start to get into September and you see them play teams like the Padres, the Phillies, the Tigers, let's go back down, the Cubs. They don't have an easy finish, folks. So the Phillies are in a very good spot. I feel like I say that a lot, and I feel like I follow that up by saying I say that a lot. But hey, are you starting to see more of the team that I promised you would earlier on in the season? I think so. And I think this little time when I was away on vacation was a pretty bad time to take vacation for another reason. Because some of the things that I'm telling you that you need to see about this team, they're starting to happen. We just got to have that one extra gear click. and we'll see if they can do that in Texas. Tomorrow's episode, trade deadline stuff, outfield rotation stuff, all those things that we missed. I might just sit here and sing Joan Duran's walkout music for like 15 minutes because I'm so hyped up on the stuff that I saw from him and from the Phillies at the deadline and all of this stuff that we did not talk about while I was out on vacation. So we will get into that on the off day tomorrow, including a standings check-in. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. And I will talk to you tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Phillies.